Series 94006. Items 1 through, guess. That's right, 40. In life, a man with bad ideas is the same as a man with good ideas, just on a different day. And now, some news. It is not as easy as you might think to report on actual good news. And so much for this news. The speaker said to the group, "The mind is a finely tuned and engineered machine that can run with almost no attention or upkeep." He brushed some life from his eye, looked off in the distance, and added, "I trust that a few of you do not hear this as a complimentary observation." The way city justice works. A bagpiper gives thanks when seeing an accordionist trip, who himself stumbled while laughing at the death of a banker, who died trying to collect a loan from an insurance salesman who had borrowed the money to buy bagpipes. And a viewer responds, "You call that justice?" Conversation in C, Herschel listing without nuts. The brain too needs food. You mean like education, new ideas, and other intellectual stimulation? No, like hot dogs and hamburgers and like that. Tune in next time when Mozart and Goethe get in an argument over who has the silliest name. And upon realizing they both have the same one, damn near come to blows over whose is spelt the funniest. And what is really the most humorous is that in this announcement the word spelled is misspelled. And can you believe it? Captain Irony is nowhere in sight. You think this might be a positive sign for mankind or what? One man who was interested in exploring the transcendental opportunities of life said that his attitude toward the systematized efforts in this area was like that. If you're sailing off into the unknown oceans with little possibility of ever returning, why not rent the boat? And that same speaker flicked away a bit of existence from his other eye and added, "I trust that a few of you heard this with the proper realization that starboard is still on the right and port otherwise." In a sense, there is no connection between what you think and consciousness, and yet you can't get away from the fact that there is. More definitions. An ordinary man, someone too serious. An ordinary mystic, someone way too serious. Tune in next time when John Milton and John Q. Public get in a row over which one of them is which. And from our viewing audience comes this question to Dr. Obvious. Dear Dr. Obvious, is the mind tied indirectly to life? Or better put, perhaps, is each person's individual mind connected directly to the overall impersonal operations of life itself? I look forward to hearing your reply and trust that my question was not too obvious. Smile, it says. Sincerely yours, etc. After having one of those frustrating civilized days, one man looked down into his pants and mused, "Well, at least my sex organs won't turn on me." And his old pecker thought, "Right, just be happy I can't talk too." Moral: hey, life may not be fair, but it's not unfair to itself. Hey. Voices from contemporary life. Only the dumb call others dumb. Hey, you dumb. And a viewer inquires, what's so contemporary about that? Stupid is as stupid does, its reflection stupid loves. And now philosophy revisited. Little voices coming from a condom. Help! Let me out of here. How did you get in there? Help me. Get me out of here. I might become a human. Help! One father told his son, and a viewer asked, "Do you mean father and son symbolically, metaphorically, or literally?" And the father said to the son, "In my desire to help you make it through life with a minimum of routine headaches and a maximum of non-standard head pleasures, let me tell you that I have come to the place of deciding that it is all right to feel pissed at life and other people as long as you never let anyone know."
Yeah.
One man began to have so much fun looking out the window on the trip that he thought, "I believe I'll just get off the next time the bus stops." And the bus immediately decided it'd quit stopping. Moral: hey, buses may not be your friend, but at least they're theirs. Hey. From an uncopyrighted, origins unknown sports dictionary found by the side of the road comes this entry. Mystic, a guy who won't play right.
No.
Today's lesson, said the professor, is that size and strength correlates to verbosity, twaddle, rattle, and jabber. Such as the fact that worms are noisier than elephants. And a student spoke up, "But worms do not make sound." And the professor replied, "Oh, do shut up, won't you?" And that is today's lesson, said the professor as quickly as possible. Useful tip for city success. If you don't know what you're talking about, assume a title. If you don't know what you're doing, assume power. Thus does equity continue to prevail in that we have both pea-brain theorists and pea-brain activists. Always available, always on call. Whenever questioned about his possible afterlife and his present spiritual condition, one man would always reply, "Put me down for 2 dozen glazed." Moral: life loves a cheerful giver as long as he doesn't throw up on life's good shoes. Oh, related humorous anecdote. Those who don't know life tend to talk of God. And another letter tonight into Dr. Obvious. Dear Doctor, if education doesn't count for anything, then does stupidity amount to much? Awaiting your enlightened reply, I remain most graciously yours, etc. A crazy man doesn't need drugs. Well, say, Professor, how about an uncivilized one? Oh, do shut up, won't you, son? One man's hardwood writing desk would slightly warp on days when he had exceptionally good ideas. And seeing this, his mind finally told him, don't let this give you any other fancy ideas about anything other than furniture. In the modern city jungle, the naturally simple find life to be too complex, while the more complex find it to be too simple, while the more alert try to find their way out. One day, 2 chess sets were just sitting around, and one said to the other, "Hey, you want to play a game of man?" And the other one replied, "Isn't that taking the notion of metaphor a bit far?" To which the first one responded, "Touché." And the second one said, "Now that's a whole other sport. And they both had a most hearty laugh. At whose expense, I'm not sure we should ask. Right after another one of his bumping into life confrontations, one man thought, if inanimate objects did have any intelligence, they'd stay inanimate. The distinction between exceptional and ordinary people is that the ordinary don't know that they are. Lucky is as lucky does. Does not. Definition: media news. Paying to hear someone whine. The stupid take no prisoners. Who would want them? And an alert viewer says, even I'm not dumb enough to say that I don't get that one. Well, I say, Brother Dante, perhaps if you hold your head just right, things may be looking up. Say, big stupid, are you glad to see me, or is that a gun to your head? And that previously noted viewer says, I'm not so alert anymore. Take your choice. A man's mind is like a belt between two wheels of life out there and his personality in here. Or, a man's personality is like a belt between the world out there and his mind in here. Or, some other permutation of the three, or maybe some others. Reflection. Too seldom, don't you think, do men pause and give adequate thanks for simply being human and being alive, so as to be able to make such meaningful mental choices. And the commemorative all-earth, all-star chorale of the intellectuals arose, and in their clear, lusty voices proudly sang out for the universe to hear, yes, yes, we all have graduate degrees from quite well-known universities. Take your choice. End of part 1. Recently, Dr. Obvious made one of his infrequent public appearances, on which occasion he said, "The world is run by dichotomies," and someone in the audience shouted out, "No, it's not!" And as you might expect, the doctor responded, "I rest my case." Definition: thought, potential jumpstart to real consciousness. And some viewers said, "Jumpstart my ass," and some others said, "Thought my ass," and still others thought, "Consciousness? Consciousness? Did he really say consciousness?" Definitions are as they seem, not too sweet and not too mean, but just right. The mythical spiritual past of man stripped bare for your inspection. If you believe you're cursed, you are cursed. AKA, the simple can't believe that life is actually that simple, while the more sophisticated pray that it is not. A certain city school teacher gave his little charges this sage travel advice. If you try to intellectually visit a foreign culture and mindset, you'll discover that Montezuma can take his revenge mentally as well. Point of story. If life had wanted people to think of ideas other than ones they already entertain, it would have given the other ones in the first place. What ho, sweet Harold? A point well made, I'd say. Another sort of father and son type of tip. Maybe I should add regarding the normal civilized life of the intellect. If you're busy, you'll stay busy. The difference between a plumber and a psychiatrist is that they both charge by the hour and one of them gets the job done. I say, old bean, but you left out several glaring professions. But to compensate, I'll read the announcement regarding the new group meeting night for recovering recoverers. Yeah. Well, I say, old man, damn decent of you, what? Final score. A man who can speak both for himself and for another can engage in speech that is either doubly dauntless or else twin twaddled. Twaddled. Final standing. Thus does science differ from, say, non-science. The easy cure. Only the stupid criticize. How to easily cure yourself. To be stupid, all you have to do is to criticize. How to keep from needing to be cured. Just the stupid accept criticism. Easy math. Stupidity equals criticism. That's the way life wants it, and that's the way the life gets it. And those what don't comprende this are this.
No.
According to legend on this one world, the true secret name of activities such as this is just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. There is a difference between being sincere and being point blank. The routinely civilized are the ones who are uncontrollably and meaninglessly sincere. Don't throw up on life's good shoes. The law of the civilized jungle. A man's mind is his home, unless he lives somewhere else. There is a reality behind everything, even the grandest of illusions. If you've been a good boy or girl, life on some planets will allow you to either think about what you're thinking about or think about thinking itself. As the royal philosopher lay on his deathbed, which stood just aft of the hypothalamus, the king knelt beside him and softly said, "My trusted friend, I have long suspected that you knew much more about the nature of existence than you ever told me. Has not the time arrived for you to reveal to me whatever deep secrets you possess?" And the dying sage nodded his head slightly and replied, "Your Grace, a man from another planet with a bacon and egg sandwich is still from another planet. Plus, I never did think you were all that graceful." A.M. A maxim. For our times, it's about time. If you're happy with life, life will be happy with you. And even if you're not, it still will be. And in concussion, Professor Dorman's Human Nature Simply Explained. We are what we eat. We are what we think. We are the sum total of all that has happened to us. We are the product of all that we remember. We're all bozos. Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Since somebody brought up Captain Irony again tonight, who did?
No.
Well, the fact that he was not present. Oh, that was meaningless intro. Well, since I didn't have anybody to announce me and mention how many hit records I'd had and how many books on the Omaha Times bestseller list. Again, having to do with the point-blank nature of reality. And if you recall, those of you who tuned in last time, that I was mentioning the fairy tale that I made up, and then asked you to consider the possibility of transferring it to the reality of life on this planet, to wit, that everyone, rather than people being interested such as this being some exceptional group of people, or being some group of people striving to see something that has never been seen, the mystical experience, the transcendental insight, the connecting with the basic cosmic forces of reality, and etc. That rather than it being that, the fact, as per my legend, that everyone, at one time looked dead in the face of point-blank reality. Everyone had the experience. that life and them were just eyeball to eyeball at one time. And within a split second, as most people are supposed to, you flinched. You looked off. It doesn't matter what you call it, and I don't mean that just in a negative sense. But at any rate, you looked off. I could go to school. Woo, who is that looking, that babe? Or did I hear somebody call my name? And they begin to pursue life itself. And then, according to my fairy tale, ordinary life is an attempt to make things complex enough that in a sense they forget about that. That everyone had their chance, they looked right into the blank, stark, may I say obvious as 1,400 hells of life, the point blank reality, and it's like, is that all there is? And that contrary to what ordinary mystics think, which remember tonight I did define for you ordinary mystics. Did everyone catch that? Or definition was an ordinary man, someone too serious. Ordinary mystic, someone way too serious. If we were just ordinary people, that could sound like an attack on the very kind of thing that apparently this is involved with. Like, why kick around the very kinds of people that would be interested in this? Notice I adjectivized it, just showing you I'm up to date. Jargoning right along with everyone else. That adjectivized ordinary mystic, man way too serious. That contrary to what you would think, that this is an attempt to cut through and get back to some kind of simplistic connection. Some kind of simplistic, and all the religions, all the mystical traditions, they all describe that the ultimate purpose in some way is to reach this kind of uncluttered, clear, direct connection, this simple connection between you and God, the Atman, the soul of the universe, reality, whatever they call it. But what if it is not quite like that, if it's more like I was saying to you last time? Then we've got this possibility, sort of running parallel to the ordinary mystical ideas and traditional ideas, that there is another reality going on, but it's always on the basis that it's one that's outside the human domain, that is something within the charge of the gods, that is something within the purview of a reality out here, and we've got to work our way up to it and spend a lifetime torturing ourselves, or if you're lucky, torturing someone else to reach this, reach some sort of. I just thought about that. That's a whole new mystical system. Everybody else is prepared. All would-be ordinary mystics are prepared as soon as they join up. As you say, now you know you're going to have to suffer, and everybody go, oh yeah, I know that. And still they join up. I just thought about it. I guess you can go ahead and take this for free, or if you're making money, cut me in. This would be a new one, a mystical system. Here it is, everything you wanted to know, and let the would-be mystics, ordinary mystics, show up. And so now I assume that you're prepared, that you understand you're going to have to suffer. And then everybody go, oh, yeah, yeah. And you go, all right, but I'm going to tell you the truth. We got a new way to do it. We figured out how to do it. You don't have to do it. You can make somebody else suffer. Well, I'm just taking sort of a guess. I'm not a businessman, but, if ordinary would-be mystics will pay X amount of money, like, a year or a month to follow that kind of system where they suffer, surely you could triple the charge by saying, we'll make other people suffer. Screw this. We'll make them suffer. That way we'll build up some sort of graceful standing with the gods. But at any rate, I still like it. In fact, what's wrong with that? Well, other than being some sort of reality that's outside the domain of man, etc. What if this kind of parallel reality, this kind of the spiritual reality that's behind the carnal, sensual illusions that the Hindus and other people like to rave on about, that it's out of our reach, and we're trying to work for it, and we'll suffer for it, and we'll starve for it, or we'll overeat for it, we'll do something. What if the other reality, the parallel reality, what if it is simply what I keep hinting at with a nice simple term of point blank reality? It's just life as it is. And the only reason I threw in Captain Irony again was so that you wouldn't feel that we were being ironic. But And so, well, you guys are supposed to know not to jump in the ironic pool already. But trying to draw upon the several years I did waste in that Baptist seminary before they threw me out, well, I feel like I ought to get some use out of it. I was going to pull this. On the way over here tonight to deliver this sermon, to minister to the flock. Now, see, I've already forgotten the kind of shit they used to teach us. Well, especially look sincere. I used to have, at any rate, I saw a sign. No. It's not going to work. The sign was on a church. So I guess we're playing Hall of Mirrors. That's better than playing Robert Hall. Of course, that's where most Baptist ministers used to buy their clothes. So those of you that are not. At any rate, let's stay on the subject. You realize that horse can still count better than most of us? Because the way you do the trick is you let the horse go. And then you say, all right, Rover, what is 2 and 1? We're getting way off the subject. I've told you this before. There was, back at the turn of the century in this country, was a man who made quite a name for himself and a few shekels by having, whatever it was, Rex the Wonder Horse, who could count. Now, I know you, those of you that hadn't heard of it will laugh and think, well, boy, that was back in simpler times. Right. But it was this guy that started touring the country on the vaudeville or the circus circuit, and he had Rex, and they'd get on the stage, and he would say, all right, Rex, what is 5 and 3? And the damn horse would go, 1. And people would watch, and the guy just stood there, and they couldn't tell what, it was just him and the horse. Anyway, they did finally figure out that, he was winking. And the horse, he had taught him that the horse would keep doing it as long as he would wink. And he would stand kind of look, and you wouldn't see. He'd put his hands in his pocket so he couldn't give signal. But think about, forget the horse now, forget Rex and the trainer, think about a man, an ordinary man, and the ideas that life seems to put upon him. Of a man saying, well, now that you mentioned politics, I'll tell you exactly what I think. We're talking about Rex and the Wonder Horse, except here's the way life works. No. Is rather than that cheap act about, all right, Rex, what's 3 and 5? That's too much trouble, see? Because then you got to teach the horse. Think about the years it took him to teach that horse to look him in the eye and him blink. Screw all that. Well, life knows better. What life does, here's the way it works with you, ordinary minds and ideas and opinions. It makes you count first. Do you say, all right, Rex, let's see it? And Rex goes. You just let Rex do whatever he wants to until he gets, I even lost count, but like 9. You say, all right, Rex, what's 3 times 3? Why does everybody sit there looking at me like, what's the rest of it? There ain't no rest of it. Or some of you, I'll read your mind, you're going, what's the point? That is the point. That's what's known as human knowledge. That's ordinary people expressing their views, their opinions, revealing their wisdom. As their brain goes, and then the person goes, all right, me, what's 2 and 1? Okay. Back to there being a reality and trying to at least do put a few hoof prints on the routine ideas of mysticism and another reality or a different reality, a deeper reality, or the one that when they really get wound up, they say the real reality. Yeah. Yeah. There's a marquee on the church. It said, God is all you need. It's like one line with these plastic marquees. God is all you need. And right under that it says, Women's Support Group meets Wednesday. It's good to see. It's good I don't have to write all my material because that really is a marking. Okay. We will be charitable one to another. Since I already warned you not to be ironic. We'll assume. So don't be laughing at what you could, if you're ordinary. Don't be laughing at, boy, how stupid. Or don't be laughing at how ironic, which is just a form of stupidity. No. Now think about it. Talking about a nice building. We're talking about a place that's been there. It's an institution that is part of civilized life. And it's been up there for many days. It's not just a one shot. It's not a mistake. But now well, look how much you laughed. I mean, look how it struck you. But what I want you to understand is that it's reasonable people behind it. I'm sure it was a person. It's a mainline church, so I'm sure it's a man running the church, with probably more years in school than we've got. That's a man with a graduate degree, I'm sure. But there it is. So rather than laughing at stupidity and etc., let me put it to you another way. Turn your head, Brother Dante, just a bit. Or perhaps if you turn it just right, you can say things are looking up, at least looking differently. For those of you that could not recall the direction that Dante took on his great travels. That was from another item tonight for those of you that can't remember. Consider that there is a kind of point-blank reality. Or consider the fact of just the reality of human life, the juxtaposition of things that seem so unrelated, so in fact antipodal to one another. That is, God is all you need. Women's support group meets Wednesday at 7:30. Consider it's intelligent, ordinary people. Put that sign up. They're driving in and out. They've had days. They've looked at it. It is simply that there is a kind of reality to life. There is a kind of fixed attention that just operates in isolation, like I'm talking about, no matter how intelligent an ordinary person is, to such a degree that that kind of incompatibility that made you laugh, that an ordinary person, if they looked at it a certain way, would go, that's embarrassing. Whether you're religious or not, if you just kind of looked, and let's say that you had no particular feeling about religion one way or the other, but here it is, God is all you need, which is a nice idea, it's something to believe in, but here it is, these people, whoever religion, it's somebody that believes in God, some organized group that says, God is all you need. And then it says, women's support group meets, like, God's all you need, but then right behind it goes, but just in case, obviously he's not, we got a support group here. Don't just laugh. Consider how fixed attention works in life, that ordinary mainstream people, intellectual, educated people, cannot see how their attention gets localized, isolated, and fixed, and is incompatible, two different ideas like that, when the ideas are within inches, physically. Not just up here, but there it is on the marquee, them driving in and out. And I'm telling you, the words, the plastic black letters that made those ideas are only inches apart. God is all you need. Women's support group meets Wednesdays at 7:30. That close together. And they drive right past. Somebody thought it up to begin with. Then somebody put it up, went there and did it. Then they all drive back and forth and they see it. It's still there. And it's not just stupidity. What is it? The mind operating at the ordinary level, at ordinary speed for ordinary purposes, cannot recognize what, from another outside view, you could say is a kind of irony, if not stupidity, kind of uncomfortable irony, a kind of embarrassing stupidity. It is just a beautiful example of fixed attention. It is a beautiful example of the mind operating in the kind of pulsating, dichotomous energy, and the man stood up and says, that ain't dichotomous. And the professor says, I rest. Forgotten that one too already. There was another great example that just popped up. to me. Related to the same idea, but is also another bellwether, another way to judge the continuing health and growth of civilization. That is a fixed attention, which is what civilization is a manifestation of it. It's a radio show, hot radio show, local disc jockeys, comedians. I think it's the hottest show in the morning, whole point. And they consider themselves comedians, writing original material and satires and this and that. I kept hearing about it, so I turned it on. And within a few minutes, one of their, obviously it was at the prime morning driving time, so it had to be what they consider one of their prime bits for the morning, and it's obviously something reoccurring. I could tell from the way they treat it. These 2 or 3 disc jockeys talking back and forth, humorous morning banter, intellectual, sarcasm. Radio show. And they say, and now, which, as I said, it's obvious something they continue to do. What they did is they played an excerpt from a TV show from last night. They played a bit from another comedian, one of those late night talk shows. They played part of his monologue. Now they gave it a little build up. They started the tape early, and then one of the radio disc jockeys went, "Hey Dave," or whoever it was, "Hey Jade, you're stepping on my lines. Wait a minute, man. Does anybody catch this? We're not here to laugh at them any more than the church marquee, but they're taking now somebody else's material." For those of you that wonder why I keep bringing up the word plagiarism having to do with the human intellect, they're not batting an eye any more than whoever put up the sign, "God is all you need, but if not, we have a support group on Wednesday." Here it is. They're saying, here it is. They're saying, "Welcome to Omaha's hottest morning drive time comedy and rock and roll station with me, Burnout Bob, and my partner Sarcastic Sam, and good old sex-driven Wendy with no underwear on, or I couldn't think of anybody else's name. Anyway, that kind of mad crew, us madcap fools having fun, right? Here we are. And they did do some, I assume, original stuff. They were playing little satires of songs, and they were doing, obvious inside political humor, if you knew Omaha and the mayor and whatever's going on, the local scandal. And, really being hip, talking real fast and screaming and all that. But suddenly it built up like, now. It was obviously what they're waiting on, like a little drum roll on tape. And then playing part of an excerpt from a show from the previous night of another comedian. They didn't hide it. And they said, and here it is. Or it was Dave Letterman or somebody. And here it is, Dave's, or somebody's monologue. And they played it. Think about it a second. We got a second. We're not here laughing. We're not here attacking and criticizing. Think about it. And that's the hottest show here in Lincoln. Didn't bat an eye. They treat it in a positive manner, the same way as that church marquee. They treat it like, "Hey, listen to this. What you been waiting for?" And from one view, you go, "Wait a minute, what have you been waiting for? I could have turned TV." They took it not only from somebody else, a whole other medium, but they have absorbed it. That part of their radio, part of their original, homegrown, local, hot radio humor in the morning is, da-da-dum, playing part of a TV show from someone else from yesterday. Yeah. If I do this theatrical bit, will anybody go to themselves, will anybody inside their own mind go, that sure is similar to religion and the whole idea of mystical ideas and teachings or revelations from God? It is? Of course, I guess there are people here waiting for revelations, or is it reservations from God? I bet they would deny that there is any such connection. But do you see that a man standing up, and it doesn't have to be just religion, it could be someone apparently representing some traditional, some systematized mystical tradition, but religion, let's say. Any religion, anywhere, anyone who stands up and says, we will now read from the Word of God, we will now read the utterances of Allah through His great prophet, McNamara, whoever it was. Is that why there's such a dearth of Scottish Muslims? I don't know. Or maybe it is that our Arab brothers have better taste than to play bagpipes, which, by the way, is not true. For those of you that know your musical history, bagpipes did not come from the British Isles. It was like a plague from another area. It was like, you know, the Egyptians had to put up with, what was it, locusts? Poor Celts, and, you know, they were minding their own business there in the British Isles and looked up, and it wasn't locusts, no. It wasn't mad birds attacking them, no, they looked up. A plague of bagpipes fell upon them. At any rate, as all of you know, this is far beyond literal, far beyond metaphor, and it is pushing the extreme limits of symbolism. But, because we're actually talking about each individual and your relationship to what seems to be the belts from out there somewhere connected to pulley driving your brain at the ordinary level. But back to the connection between someone standing up and says, well, here's what God said, or here's what our founder said, here's what our great mystic of the past said. You don't see that that is the St. Paul morning zoo crew and the drive time hottest radio station in town playing Jay Leno's monologue, part of it from last night, as part of their show. And you go, wait a minute. And they don't bat an eye. Went, hey, here's what you've been waiting for. Da, da, da. And they got a little intro built in to do some else's material. And you know I'm not criticizing, but I'm doing this to make you, drive your brain, let your brain run where it would normally go. Doing that where you almost want to go, yeah, God, what kind of idiots, what kind of, cheap-ass Philistines are they? You don't see the connection between that and any information that anyone else tells you they've got from somewhere else? Would you care to go past religion? Assuming I made it even that clear enough in that en passant minor traffic pedestrian confrontation. That is, I was hoping to at least brush your brain with my fender. You understand the point I was trying to make? A man gets up and says, well, here I am. I have no opinions to offer. I'm not here. I'm only here to help the flock. I'm here to help you find people. I'm here to tell you what God sent me to tell you. It's the damn Detroit Zoo Crew in the morning playing, part of Arsenio Hall's opening monologue last night, and it's now part of their show. And you go, what? How can you say that? All right. Wouldn't it not be easy enough if you were still that same kind of ordinary, smart-ass, routine critic to go, well, you're right. It's the same thing for a man for a pope or somebody to get up a rabbi and say, well, here's what God said. They're playing some acid material. Assuming there is somebody else, but at least they got a book and it says it is. But they're playing some acid material, right? Okay. Those are pretty easy to hit. How about education? Yeah. And then somebody else will go, wait a minute, we're getting into scientific reality. Yeah. How about any kind of education? How about somebody says, my advice to you is, don't eat so many fatty foods. And you can go, well, I don't know. And they go, well, I'm telling you, there is statistical evidence. I was reading in the New England Medical Journal, either that or it was Family Circle. Someone gives you good advice. They say, you shouldn't drink so much. And you go, well, why? Well, I'm telling you, people know that's just not good for you. I know I am refining it, but do you see it's the same thing as this bunch of half-assed, no-talented, cob-brain disc jockeys? I'm doing all this to try to build you up, see? They're screaming and hollering, drinking as much coffee and taking as many bins as they can, trying to feel like they're actually talented. Of course, they're talented. Why are they? I'll agree. I'll give them this. They're the hottest show in the morning in Bozeman, but hey, how big's that, right? If they're so hot, why are they stuck in Montana? Why aren't they in somewhere big like Boulder? And so they're there, yeah, and they're screaming, they're hollering, having a big time, and the highlight of the show is playing some acid material. Not even hiding it. We went from that to a man of God. Here is what God wants you to do. Even if it's true. What he says. What kind of damn talent is that? None. They're playing some acid material. All right. Now at least it sounded like a shot at religion. How about all forms of advice? I did education. I know that gets sticky. But remember this. Science as opposed to, well, non-science.
Yeah.
You forgot that one too. Good. All right. All the way from, we're going through a graduation of these cheap-ass, no-talented, dunderheaded, pea-brained, know-nothing disc jockeys sitting out here in Spokane, thinking they're big shots, playing somebody else's material the next morning as part of their show. All the way from that to a minister playing part of God's material as his show, to education, Professor Dorman saying, pens and papers out, because I am now going to give you a rundown of Isaac Walton's 14 Laws of Physical Fishing, or whatever it was. All the way from that into just good personal advice, one person to another. Son, I'm your father. I'm telling you, do not go out and drive while you're drinking. If you accepted it, somebody else's material. Let's graduate a little bit further. Domino is not the only ones that can continue to refine things down to the point that it has no nourishment. There is no correlation between this and sugar, but all the way from the disc jockey to religion to education to interpersonal, just one-on-one advice. We're still talking about other people's material, to your mind. You wake up in the morning. Let's start somewhere. You wake up in the morning and you're thinking something. God knows what. I don't want to get into it. This whole thing's making me kind of queasy anyway. But what you normally take as being your thoughts. What you normally take as being your thoughts. Are any of you still misled enough, dense enough, that all of your normal thoughts, just, we won't worry about little exceptions here and there, but the overwhelming, the 99% of everything you think is plagiarized. You're replaying somebody's material. I mean, you're opening your mouth. You got on your own personal fashion statement. You got your own hair. You got your own little way of doing things. Your own little way of talking, but you open your mouth and what is it? You're playing last night's monologue from somebody else. That's the kind of no-talented bastards our brains are. I mean, that's why I went through all the dramatics of trying to make it sound like some kind of shot. Think about it. Bozeman, Montana. And don't write me from Montana. But some little old dinky town, and you happen to be in there, and let's say that you're from New York, and you're familiar with the wired up, hot, mile a minute kind of shows that in all the big cities nowadays that on whatever the hot 2 or 3 radio shows in the morning are, there's always 2 or 3 guys, maybe a gal thrown in, and they're just running. I mean, they would make amphetamines go what? That kind of thing. All right. So we'll assume at the civilized, ordinary level that is the benchmark. That's why they're there. And then you get in some little dinkwater town, and they're doing kind of a cheap shot at it, right? Because they're trying to build their way up and get somewhere in life. But part of their show is outright plagiarism, except nobody ever says that word. And if you said that word to them, even if they knew the word, they'd think, well, boy, you unsophisticated hick, they'd say to you. Like we built it into our show. They're used to it here. It's just part, we say who it is. We don't hide it. We record it. We've got an arrangement with NBC or whatever, and we've got some kind of syndicated affiliation one way or the other, but they know we're playing part of the Letterman show here, some little bit, or part of Jay's monologue or whatever the hell it was, that they know we're doing it. I mean, it's a swap out. We mentioned the name. It's not a secret. What the hell are you picking on us for? The people here love it. I went through all that, so it sounded like almost we were attacking them. Like, boy, what a bunch of, they say that, but it just shows they got no originality. They're not creative, or else they wouldn't have to play somebody's show, right? I mean, there's the proof, for one thing. They wouldn't have to defend themselves, plus they wouldn't be sing out here in Drinkwater, Nebraska. They'd be in New York if they could write original material, if they could ever think of something creative on their own. But you could turn right from that and walk right into a church or synagogue. You could walk right into some kind of inspirational speaker, and it would not cross your mind. So wait a minute. They're doing the same thing. And if you got that far, we're doing my graduation again. Even if you got that far, you could walk out, you and your friend, your uncle, your father, your best buddy. And you could walk out. Let's say that you got through the second stage, and you just left some inspirational talk, or some traveling yoga or mystic came through town, and he talked about, and all he talked about, he kept referring to the history of whatever he's talking about, you know, some Zen school, or the yoga teacher he had, or some elusive Sufi background that he has. But he keeps referring to somebody. He's replaying the Letterman monologue from last night. So let's say that you and your buddy walk out, and that you even get that good. And your buddy says, "Do you realize that what we just heard, at first it kind of captured me once or twice, and he was an interesting speaker, but you realize that guy, this would-be Sufi we just heard, do you realize he was doing the same thing that guy, was talking about the other night? It's interesting it was this guy, even speaking, he says, for a dead mystic, or even for God, if it was just an ordinary religious operation, that they're doing the same thing that he was talking about, and your buddy says that to you, and you go, that's true. And both of you wander in the nearest coffee shop, and you're going to sit down and talk about it some more and enjoy it for a few hours, but you don't realize that you just did the same thing. When he says when he told you, he said, "Do you realize that whole thing about being a thief and replaying the Letterman show, like that guy the other night on that weird show was talking about? Yeah. Do you realize that that's what this guy just did in there?" And you go, "Damn, that's true. He's just done it to you." Now, I don't mean, and of course, I don't mean he done it to you in some kind of nefarious, willful way. But if you go, "Say that again. Let me wait," and you go, "Whoa." And you think, well, that's one reason that he's always been my buddy. That's why, you know, for years we always sit around and talk. Because he comes up with stuff like that. He's just done it. You and him have just done the same dance. All right, let's say you get that good. And you think, wait a minute. And so you go off by yourself to ruminate, reflect, and try not to throw up on your own good shoes. And you go off yourself and go, Or maybe your buddy wasn't available and you went out to the lecture. And you sit there, and all through the lecture you go, shit, you know, Jesus, give me a break. You know, that you're too smart to fall for this stuff. All he's doing is quoting people. He could be quoting somebody. We don't know whether he's quoting the guy. We don't know whether he understands what he's talking about. He keeps saying, well, here's a way to expand your consciousness. I couldn't tell what he was doing. He looked glassy-eyed. He would stumble around the stage. He did all kinds of gestures. And, you know, he asked for money. He seemed like a routine guy. How do I know he knows anything about that? And you think to yourself, boy, what kind of rube do they think I am? Just routine rube. In fact, they didn't think about it. You showed up. And I'm not talking about the mystic. Life simply looks down and you showed up. It knows, hey, another satisfied turnip. Of course, it's the only pleasant coincidence with ordinary people, I guess, is that they can't hear life talk like I do. The point of all this was, what was the point of all this? That there's only, how about back to my marquee, only inches between absolutely incompatible, embarrassing, just astoundingly ignorant, in a sense, statements of God is all you'll ever need. Women's support group meets Wednesday at 7:30. Inches apart. The disc jockeys blathering on about, you know, you're tuned to the hottest thing because they constantly, like everybody else, engage in self-promotion and self-reference. And they're just talking as fast as they can, you know, making little witty asides as much as possible. You're listening to Minneapolis' hottest morning drive crew, blah, 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 blah. You know, the original, accept no substitutes. Da, da, da. And they suddenly play a little sketch of what apparently is original music just for them. You don't hear it anywhere else. But, of course, maybe you guys don't know, there are places that specialize in turning out these jingles, and they'll put in new words, and you don't know any better. If you just live in Minneapolis, you think it's original music for their morning drive crazy crew of WZBT or something. You drive down to Austin, because when you pay to buy these, they give one guarantee that they won't sell it within a market within 100 miles of where you. But at any rate, they're doing this whole pitch about the original da 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 da, and this music going on so you think it's original because there's music and there's voices singing WZT Minneapolis #1 da da da, and all this original thing said, now what you been waiting for? Hey, the top 10 list or what that thing is from Letterman, and they play it through all of that. You notice the juxtaposition still. The marquee was inches away. This is inches spatially. That they hear the hottest crew, you're listening to the original, the one and only, the zoo crew, the morning zoo crew here in Minneapolis, and now here's Dave. And they play it. And it's not ignorance, not in any kind of meaningful way, and it is not, I mean, they're not hiding anything. It's just that kind of juxtaposition, that there is a reality going on that is point blank right in front of your face, and then there's what civilized reality, what ordinary minds tells you is going on. It comes and it goes. Sometimes it gets so close that any distinction is actually operationally meaningless, to say, wait a minute, that's not exactly it, because it doesn't really matter. But then it can get like this, to where it could matter to you individually, and the mind still won't see it. And then you've got the mystics involved with what I was suggesting to you might be unnecessary effort. That, yes, well, I'll spend my life trying to work this out. Might I be so bold as to say it may not be all that big a deal to work out. But if it is, well, all right, I should go ahead myself and be bold. I don't know why I keep fooling around. Listen, what you want to know, if you want to really understand life, what you want to know, I got it. It's right here. Every night, 3 times when we, and also after the meetings we have this support group in case this is not working.